pulled out the papers from my folder. "These are legal documents," I said loudly, making sure every ear could hear. "They state that anyone who stays on my property without my permission is trespassing. They also state that anyone who wants to use my property for business, like hosting a family reunion, must pay commercial rates." "How much?" someone shouted from the back. 500 naira per person per night. 3 meals a day are 1,000 naira per person. Water, electricity, and use of my facilities, another 500 naira per person per day. I could see them calculating in their heads. For 25 people for 14 days, the total came to over 500,000 naira. The silence that followed was thick enough to cut with a machete. Grace's face had gone pale like cassava flour. "Mama, you cannot be serious." "I am very serious," I replied, looking her straight in the eye. "You can pay, or you can leave." Michael laughed, a bitter, angry laugh that had no joy in it. "You have lost your mind, old woman. We are your family. You owe us hospitality." Those words, "you owe us," hit me like a slap. And something inside me that had been sleeping for many years woke up. "I owe you nothing," I said, and my voice rang out like a bell in the village square. "I have given you everything for years. My time, my money, my strength, my peace. And what have you given me? Nothing but demands and disrespect." An old woman from the crowd, Michael's mother, stepped forward. Her face was twisted with rage like a bitter leaf. "You ungrateful woman. After all my son has done for you, what has your son done for me?" I interrupted, my voice rising. "Tell me one thing he has ever given me without expecting 10 things in return." The old woman's mouth opened and closed like a fish thrown on dry land. She had no answer because there was no answer to give. Grace began to cry, the kind of crying meant to manipulate, not the kind that comes from real pain. "Mama, please, don't embarrass us like this. These are important people. What will they think of our family?" "They will think," I said slowly, "that in this family, there is one woman who knows her worth." At that moment, something happened that I did not expect. The compound gate creaked open, and my neighbor, Mr. Benjamin, walked in. He was a retired soldier, a man who walked like thunder and spoke like lightning. I had only met him once since I moved in, but he was the kind of man who noticed everything. "Madam Mary," he called out, his voice cutting through the noise like a sharp knife through soft yam. I heard shouting from my compound. "Is everything well with you? These people," I said, pointing at the crowd, "came to my farm without invitation. They want free accommodation and free food for 2 weeks. When I asked them to pay, they became angry." Mr. Benjamin's eyes swept over the crowd like a searchlight in the darkness. "Is that so?" He turned to Michael. "Young man, do you have a reservation to stay here?" "She is my mother-in-law," Michael said defensively, puffing out his chest. "We don't need a reservation." "Then do you have her permission?" Silence fell like a heavy blanket. Mr. Benjamin nodded slowly, the way wise men do when they have seen foolishness. "In this village, we respect elders, and we respect property owners. If Madam Mary says you must pay to stay, you will pay. If you refuse, you will leave. That is the law of this land." Another neighbor appeared at the gate. Sister Comfort, a market woman with a sharp tongue and sharper mind. She was carrying a basket of tomatoes on her head, but she set it down when she saw the crowd. "I heard the noise from my house," she said, hands on her hips like a warrior ready for battle. "What kind of people force themselves on an old woman who just buried her husband and bought herself a small piece of land? If you want free accommodation, go sleep under the bridge in the city." More neighbors began to gather. Old Mr. Samuel, young Mrs. Patience, Brother Peter who sold fish, Sister Joy who plaited hair. They had heard the commotion, and in African villages, when one person's trouble spills into the compound, it becomes everyone's business. Suddenly, Michael and his family were not dealing with one old woman they could bully. They were dealing with a community that stood together like bamboo trees in the forest, stronger together than apart. The mood shifted like wind changing direction. The angry voices became uncertain whispers. Children were called back from the cassava field where they had been trampling my young plants. Bags were reluctantly picked up from where they had been dropped. Grace grabbed my arm, her fingers digging into my flesh like claws. "Mama, you are making a mistake. If you do this, I will never forgive you. Never." I looked at her, the child I had carried for 9 months, nursed for 2 years, raised with all my strength and all my love. And I saw, finally, what I had been denying for years. Grace did not love me. Grace needed me. There is a difference as wide as the ocean between those two things. My daughter, I said gently, pulling my arm free from her grip. Forgiveness is something you ask for when you have done wrong. I have done nothing wrong. I have only remembered who I am. Michael stormed toward his car like a man who had lost a fight he thought he would win. We are leaving. When you are sick and dying, don't call us for help. If I am sick and dying, I replied, my voice calm and clear, I will call people who love me, not people who use me. One by one they left. The cars drove away in clouds of red dust, taking their anger and entitlement with them. The neighbors stayed a little longer, offering words of support, promising to check on me. Sister Comfort touched my shoulder. You did the right thing, Mama Mary. A tree that bends for everyone will eventually break. Mr. Benjamin nodded in agreement. Some people only understand respect when you demand it. You have taught them a lesson today. When everyone was gone, I stood alone in my compound. The sun was setting, painting the sky orange and purple like a painter's canvas. My cassava stems swayed in the evening breeze, and the stream at the back of my property sang its gentle song. I walked to my small veranda, sat down on my wooden stool, and let out a long, slow breath. Then, to my own surprise, I began to laugh. Not a bitter laugh, but a free laugh. The kind that comes from deep in the belly when a burden you have carried for years finally falls off your back. That night, I cooked a small pot of jollof rice, just for myself. I ate slowly, savoring every spoonful, tasting freedom in every grain. I slept in my own bed, in my own room, with no one demanding anything from me. And for the first time in many years, I slept like a baby without worries. The next morning, Mr. Benjamin came to my farm with seedlings for tomatoes and peppers. For your garden, he said simply. A good neighbor deserves good things. Sister Comfort brought me fresh fish from the market. Eat well, Mama, she said with a warm smile. You have shown us something important yesterday. You have shown us that even at our age, we can still stand up for ourselves. In the weeks that followed, my life transformed like a caterpillar becoming a butterfly. I joined the village farming cooperative, where I met other women who had similar stories of family taking advantage of them. I learned new planting techniques from the younger farmers. I made friends with other widows who understood my pain and my journey. I painted my house blue, my favorite color, the color of the sky on a clear day. I bought 3 goats and named them Faith, Hope, and Freedom. Every morning, I would feed them and talk to them, and they would look at me with their gentle eyes as if they understood. Grace called once a month, always asking for something. Money for this, help with that, favors for her husband's family. And I learned to say one word I had never said before. A word that felt strange on my tongue at first, but became easier each time I said it. No. Mama, Michael's car broke down. We need 50,000 naira for repairs. No, my daughter. I cannot help you with that. Mama, the children need new school uniforms. Can you send money? No, Grace. Their father has a good job. He can buy their uniforms. Mama, we want to visit you for Christmas with 15 of Michael's relatives. No, you can visit me alone with your children for 3 days only. And you must bring your own food. At first, each no felt like swallowing stones. My heart would beat fast. My hands would tremble. The voice in my head would say, you are a bad mother. You are selfish. You are wicked. But each time I said it, the voice grew quieter. And each time, I felt a little more like myself, like the Mary the first was meant to be, not the Mary everyone had turned me into. 1 year later, during the harvest festival, my cassava farm produced the finest tubers in the village. People came from neighboring villages to see the farm that the old widow woman had built with her own hands. My land, once bare and empty, was now abundant with crops. My house, once invaded and disrespected, was now full, not with people who drained me, but with neighbors who respected me and friends who truly cared. I stood in my compound during the harvest, watching children from the village help me pull the cassava from the ground. Their laughter filled the air like music, and I felt something I had not felt in many years, genuine joy. Not the fake joy that comes from pretending everything is fine when it is not, but the real joy that comes from living a life that is truly your own. And I understood something my grandmother had once told me when I was a young girl, something I had forgotten until now. A woman who knows her worth cannot be bought with guilt or sold with tears. The moral? Let me tell you something, my brothers and sisters. This story I have shared with you is not just about an old woman and her cassava farm. It is about something deeper, something many of us face but are too afraid to speak about. Blood may be thicker than water, yes, but poison is thicker than both. When family becomes a burden instead of a blessing, when they take your peace and give you only pain, it is not wickedness to protect yourself. It is wisdom. It is survival. Love does not mean letting others stand on your neck while you lie on the ground like a doormat. Love does not mean giving until you have nothing left but bones and regrets and bitterness in your heart. Real love respects. Real love contributes. Real love does not come only when it needs something and disappear when it has taken everything. As I learned on that day when I stood my ground, it is never too late to find your voice. It is never too late to reclaim your dignity. It is never too late to teach people, even your own children, how to treat you properly. Remember this truth. A tree that bends for everyone will eventually break and fall to the ground. But a tree that stands firm, rooted in its own worth, will grow tall and strong and provide shade for those who truly deserve it. May you have the courage to be like me, to say no when you must, to stand firm when you should, and to choose peace over people who bring you no peace. May you learn the difference between family, who loves you, and family who uses you. And if you see someone in your life being treated the way I was treated, an elder being used and abused, a widow being exploited, a parent being taken for granted, stand with them as Mr. Benjamin and Sister Comfort stood with me. Because in the end, we are only as strong as the weakest person we allow to suffer in silence. This is my story. I have told it. May it give you strength when you need it most.